No, I'm putting my suit on. I'm going back outside. I'll take my chances with the rock aliens because fuck that.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Cloud.
This is We Watch This week's movie is Apollo 18. Apollo 18 is a 2011 horror science fiction thriller film directed by Gonzalo Lopez Gallego, starring, officially nobody because they really stick into the found footage thing, but really starring Warren Christie, Lloyd Owen, and Ryan Robbins. How about a plot synopsis?
Well, the government lies to some people, like it always does, and sends some dudes into space to do something that they don't even know what they're doing, and then they meet a dead Russian, and then rocks are aliens. I mean,
yes, really.
that's how it really is. Like, it's like, oh, you know, so if you meet a dead Russian, get off the ground.
I don't think you meet dead people.
They seem to make movies about it, so I don't see why not.
Yeah, well, I guess you can see them. I don't know. Like, don't go shaking hands. Okay. So really, like, this found footage thing. Like,
well, I don't know. Like, it's supposed to be found footage, but it's more like government leaked footage, and I can tolerate that a little bit more, especially because it's not like somebody was holding a camera as much. It was, oh, well, we have cameras like positioned within the shuttle, and then we put, you know, cameras on suits, and then, you know, government business.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, this is 1974.
Exactly.
So we have cameras everywhere, and we're transmitting all of those back to the moon and keeping all of it, and which first off you can't do because like they like to get a TV signal back from the moon, like you have to do it at like a 1/4 speed. It's not even real time, and you can't do but just one thing at a time. Like there's no way. Like. Found footage, the problem with found footage movies always is, well, but who found it? And like so they try to set it up. They're like 4,000 hours of whatever business, 600 whatever it was hours of footage were anonymously uploaded to lunartruth.com, which then they have a title card of again at the end.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is like half of the footage is because even if you can assume, okay, well, they knew they were going to do this, they put extra antennas on the limb or something, they're transmitting all of this stuff back. Maybe you have that stuff. But they're also shooting a lot of stuff on film. Like they have the like high film cameras, the ones that they actually had, they're carrying those around. They make a big point of like, oh, we've got this much of the film and it's Kodachrome and everything. And there's no way they got that back. Because it's
still in
blew up.
Space.
Some of it's still laying on the moon, probably next to where they wrecked the moon buggy, but the rest of it, whatever he still had on him, and the last reel that we see of him blows up in the capsule with him because they crashed the things together. So there's no way, like, you could not have found it because it blew up. So even apart from, because it's not just that, like this thing has problems way beyond just being supposed to be found footage, but that's not helping it. Way beyond in space. Found footage. Like there's no way.
Really bad movie.
It's really bad. Because there's so many different, there's like levels of bad. There's the found footage thing doesn't work because you couldn't possibly have found it because it's all destroyed. Except for the stuff you could have transmitted, and then even then still.
And then like a lot of the stuff that you could transmit would only be within the landing gear.
Yeah, well, like they had, I guess they had those they had two angles they kept cutting between inside the limb, and then there was like one, like I guess they had those were the Westinghouse TV cameras, the ones that were supposed to motion detect stuff. Except I don't know how you have a motion detecting camera that also has automatic pan, because then it's moving all the time, so it's never not recording. But it's so much footage. But there's you also can't see the cameras that are apparently mounted to the walls inside the limb, which is a very, very small space. Like, think of a phone booth and then think of a second phone booth, and it's about like that. Like, that's how much space there is in the limb. It's very, very small. And they don't have just the big Westinghouse cameras like they put out on the moon, just mounted to the walls, because you can't see them, because you can see the other angle from the other angle, and there's nothing there.
Yep.
And it's very, like, wide angle, like you can tell it's like a GoPro kind of thing or something that it would look like, and that would be fine. Like, when you make Paranormal Activity, fine. We have GoPros now, but this is 1974, so you run into trouble immediately.
Yep.
Then
what about these people? Like, are any of these people like real people?
These people, the astronauts? No,
yeah,
that's something else, because they make all of this, like, it's so stupid. They really dedicated to this is like a real conspiracy kind of thing we're trying to put forward. And they have all that title card stuff at the end, like this dude he was killed in a test pilot accident, his body was never recovered. This guy was never recovered. It's like, no, none of these people were real. There were never any people by these names in the astronaut program at all. They would not have been the people that would have. Mostly anything past 17 was never officially crewed anyway, because they were canceled before they got that far, because they were still like 2 years out at that point when they would have needed to decide who the crews were. But no, none of them are actual people. So,
well, because that was one of those things, is because they did put so much work into being like, hey, real people, and it's like, okay, well. I was hoping maybe they were at least based off of real people or something.
No, they're not.
Because, if they're going to be like, oh, well, we're going to make this movie about some dead people who are astronauts, and we're going to, like, change the reason why they died, then I'm sure they would have to get, like, some kind of authority from, loved ones or family members to even use their name.
Yeah, which is probably why they don't.
Yeah, but it's like, they put a little bit too work into trying to make it seem real, just to not have anybody at all.
Well, on the poster, the only actual credit of a real person is the director. There's no, like, credit bed with the names of the actors, and they don't credit them in the movie either, because they're supposed to be like, oh no, we really found this stuff, like, it's real.
Yeah.
And during the like, we know when it was made, we know that they actually shot it in Canada, but when it was supposed to be coming out in interviews and stuff, like, they all, like, the producers and everybody just all stuck to the story that, like, there's no actors in the movie, they didn't shoot anything, they actually found this. It's ridiculous that how hard they tried to say, no, it's real. It's like, no, it's not.
No, it's all bullshit.
It's not. I mean, but even then, okay, so fine. So if it's not real, that doesn't mean that it's not good. But it does suffer. Well, it doesn't mean that it's not good just because it's not real. Let me be clear.
There's plenty of fake things that are awesome, but this movie's not one of them.
Fake things. Most movies are fake.
Yep.
And that's okay. Fake things are okay. But it's always a mistake. See, that's the problem, and I hate to bring it up even in this context. Actually, I'm not even going to say the name. But a certain movie that I refer back to way too often, like, that's part of the way that we judge stuff, is by what it seems like it's trying to be. And I'm a little harsher on comedies and stuff, because I'm just like, well, I didn't think it was funny. I guess maybe it's fine, but it's not funny, so it didn't do its job, whatever. But when things are supposed to be like big serious things, when it's like, we're making a serious movie, and then it has really serious problems, then it gets points off for that. Because it didn't do what it tried to do. I mean, this isn't trying to be the best thing ever. Or if it is, it missed so badly that it's better to just assume not. But it's just, in tying it to that, in trying to say, oh, it's real, And like we had like a technical advisor guy at the same time as that. Like we had a technical advisor guy. Okay, how did you have a technical advisor guy if you didn't shoot anything?
Yeah.
But there's all this stuff, like they make up all this stuff about they justify it like, oh, because immediately I thought, okay, he starts off, he's like narrating and we're seeing like them at a barbecue or something, and he says, well, the program was canceled, which it really was, but then they were like, well, if you won't tell anybody, like we're still gonna go because we've got like the DoD and they want to do some stuff. We're just going to cover it as like an unmanned launch of equipment of some kind, heavy equipment. Because before that, I was like, you can't launch a Saturn V and have no one notice. So, and I still don't believe every time they're like, oh, we can't, nobody knows it. We claimed it was unmanned. But they're talking on the radio.
Yeah.
They're talking on the regular, which is radio. It's just radio. Like, you can pick up the radio, and you have to actually, even for NASA to be able to talk to people in space, they have to use listening stations that are owned by other countries and other people all over the world. Because they have to have radio needs relative line of sight. It doesn't have to be direct line of sight, but it has to be sort of that way, and you can't have the whole Earth in the way. And
the Earth's kind of big, so you need some kind of cooperation.
Yeah, and so there's no way that people aren't hearing them talking on the radio. There's no way that people didn't see them because they have to go out there to the tower and get into they have to get into the capsule. If you're launching heavy equipment, why did you have the capsule and the escape tower and everything on it? There's no reason you would do that. And it seems to see, and this is something that sounds like you wouldn't have much reason to say, but this is actually something that Michael Bay did a better job of, because the beginning of Transformers 3 is the whole like alternate history of Apollo 11, which is they knew there was a transformer on the moon and they had to get there before the Russians, and so they just did, but they did it in full view of everyone, and then just covered it by when they were on the dark side and they couldn't get radio signal, which is a real thing. That then they just had to do it then in that brief window of time. Not we're going to put on an entire mission with people thinking that it's not happening.
Yeah.
Historically, it couldn't have happened anyway because there isn't any unaccounted for equipment. We know where all the Saturn V's that were produced were. We know where a couple of them are still sort of intact. There's one at each of the space centers, which are from, I think, 19 and 20. They used the actual one that should have been for 18. They used a couple of years after this to launch Skylab, the first Skylab. And then the other one that was left, they used as pieces to make one of the later Skylabs out of. So they used the sort of like outer body of it to make the space station. So there's no like rocket, we didn't know what was on it. There was never any secret, like we launched some equipment, we didn't tell people what it was. And there's just no reason. It doesn't seem like there's any reason to. There's no reason if you were going to go, if you knew that we were just going to cancel the program so that we could go anyway and do secret things. There's no reason not to just go ahead and just do it. Just do it, because nobody at that it wasn't being covered very well by the news anymore. People weren't paying that much attention because Vietnam was going on, I guess, and there was stuff going on. The Watergate was happening. You could have gone ahead and just done it as a regular mission, and that would have been much less suspicious than all of this trouble that they went to.
Well, and then, this is a whole bunch of bullshit.
With them knowing that it's secret, then there's still stuff that they do anyway as if it's not. They have an actual mission patch with Apollo 18 on it with their actual names on their spacesuits and on some of the other equipment and stuff. And then they put the flag in the ground when they show up. And it's like, why are you putting the flag in the ground? It's not on TV. No one is going to be here to see it. You don't think there's no reason to do this if you're just supposed to get to work and do the secret stuff.
Well, that's the thing is, like, why put another flag anyways if it's supposed to be a secret and no one is supposed to know that you're there at all anyways?
Yeah.
Like, how did that American flag show up? I mean, like magic.
Yeah. I mean, and then there's so they happen across the Russian equivalent to the limb, and they recognize it. They know what it is. They see it. And they're like, "Oh, that's the Russian lander." And it's like, no, because it was never seen in public outside of Russia. We didn't see what it looked like until like in the 80s sometime when the records came out. They would have had no idea what it was. It could have been that could have been aliens, as far as they knew. They didn't until they got inside and saw that there was Russian written everywhere. But they just walk up to it and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's like the LK lander." It's like, you don't know that. You've never seen it.
Well, you know what they also have never seen? A fucking working flashlight. Like, what was that shit?
Yeah, it was like a camera flash or something. I'm pretty sure. I don't want to say that they did or didn't. Now that I've just been sitting here talking, like I know a lot about what happened on the Apollo missions, I don't remember if they carried a light of some kind. But it seems like they must have. Like,
well, it doesn't make any sense to me because, you would think that they would have on standard principle for the simple fact that it's like, hey, we're going to go into space and we're going to go into areas where there's not any, light other than what's from the sun because, we didn't make stuff to throw out here like street lights and shit. And I can't exactly use a torch, so I better use a flashlight. And, NASA doesn't give us any fucking flashlights, but all the nice people at Westinghouse gave us a flash on these stupid-ass cameras that seems to be transmitting back home.
Mm-hmm.
Which aren't.
Well, they can't possibly be. All of those cameras, it's crazy. But then also there's that whole period of time where they're not getting signal from them.
No.
So we can't contact them because apparently they're relaying it off of the antenna on the lander, not on the lander, on the rover, which they did do, I think. But
that was one of the things. It's like they were talking about, like they could never get a hold of anybody. It was Freedom, Voyager, not Voyager, Liberty, and what was the other one?
Liberty and
Houston.
Freedom.
Yeah, Liberty was in the sky.
Yeah, Liberty was the CSM, and Freedom was the lander.
Because they could both talk to Houston, but they couldn't talk to each other. And then one of the two guys on the ground had made a comment like, "What if that was the gear that we had brought? It like is keeping our signal from going out to Liberty." And I'm like, "Okay, go smash it."
Which they do
very poorly.
Yeah. Ineffective smashing is ineffective. But so the equipment they're supposed to be there to set up is early warning detectors for Russian ICBMs, which makes no sense to me at all because we already had that. AT&T was responsible for building the early warning system around North America in like the 50s. And so there's no, which we didn't find out about until later either because it was secret because you didn't want to know how it works. That's part of whereas some of the design of the really, really heavy looking long lines buildings came from, except not the ones in the middle of the country because it's just like up in Alaska and stuff. But they're not launching missiles from the moon, are they? So how does detection equipment on the moon help you at all?
It doesn't. But it would help you against Nazis because, the Nazis did build a base on the moon. Just saying.
But how is it that they couldn't? Why do we even need that? Why do we need that as the justification for going? But also, if apparently all moon rocks are like alien monster things, then there's already like a lot of them, which they do that at the end. That's the other part of the text at the end is like, oh, well, we brought all these moon rocks back from the moon and we gave them as gifts to like foreign dignitaries and stuff, which is a thing that happened. And it just sort of leaves that hanging there like, oh, well, there's all these moon rocks on Earth now that are actually little alien things that we've given to foreign dignitaries. And so it's a plot of some kind to like kill off other country leaders or something. But it's like
there's a problem with that.
At that point, the first time
they're still here.
Well, they are, but also they've been there at that point in time for 5 years, and they haven't eaten anybody yet. So, and they seem like the early warning system equipment, is that just a cover? Like, do they really? Because they seem like they know something else. Because the command module pilot is like, oh, well, I kind of knew stuff, but I couldn't really tell you. And the Capcom guy is like, well, but it's need to know. And then they're like, no, tell us stuff. We're out here dying. And there's just no, like, they seem to know that there could have been alien something, which is probably why they took all the cameras there, because those cameras are not watching for ICBMs. They're not. So they got to be watching for something else, and they're supposed to be motion sensitive, so they're looking for the alien things, which means they know. So I don't understand what the point of this mission in particular is at all. Also on the no, that's completely wrong. The things is they talk so much about how it's too cold in the crater, in any of the craters, because it's in there's no sunlight. But that's ridiculous, because they're in a spacesuit. Like, the coldest it gets in actual space, when you don't have a surface of any kind that could have absorbed any heat of any amount of time. If you're just out in space, and like behind, like if you're in space and you go outside and you're behind the space station on the other side, or you're on the other side of the Earth or something, because you are like half the time completely in the dark. The coldest that it gets is still like 100 degrees warmer. I mean, we're in negative degrees the whole time, but more than 100 degrees warmer than the minimum temperature that the suit can protect from. It's ridiculous. It's a spacesuit. Like, you're in space. It's not too cold.
I mean, it's doing its job.
Well, apparently theirs aren't, because it's so cold, and he's like about to pass out because he can't breathe because it's so cold, because he spent too much time in the crater. And
I'm just thinking defective suits, man.
Defective suits are defective. Well, apparently, because he gets a moon rock thing in his suit before it's leaking air. Like, it's in his helmet. He's like, there's something in my helmet. And then we see it. And then he lies about it for some reason for a period of time. The other guy doesn't see it, but we see it. And how did it get there? How did it get inside the suit?
Oh, okay. That one I'm okay with, because they already
had it inside the limb before he put it on, I guess. It was the one that was just laying there out because they had already collected some.
Yes.
It's just hanging out, like, pretending to be a rock.
It's just chilling.
See, the thing is, I keep saying the thing is, I've got to stop saying that. When they show the moon rock turn into moon rocks with legs, they sort of bust open, and like dust goes off of it, as if there's like not all of it is the bug part, or there's dirt or something on it. And so it looks like there's no way that could go back into looking like a rock again if it wanted to. Because they look like rocks. They look at him real close. I mean, he does have that one time where he picks up the one and he's like, feels kind of weird, which is ridiculous also, because there's so much
soft.
There's so much between your actual hand and the outside of the suit that's touching the rock that there's no way you'd be able to tell that anyway.
It's like, dude, are you even like a real astronaut? Like, seriously, bro.
Well, they're supposed to be, and their bodies were never recovered, but that's a lot of bull.
Yeah, that's there's enough bull there that we have enough steak for a year. So much bull. It
turns into sort of an alien ripoff kind of thing, because like it gets inside his chest, it starts to spread, and it's gonna kill him, and he's going crazy, and it's like, really, you couldn't have thought of something better than aliens hide in his chest? Really?
Nope. Sorry, couldn't do that.
Really? So, I feel like I've been talking a lot. Like, do you have something to say?
Let's see here. I complained about the flashlights.
Or the lack thereof.
The lack of proper flashlights. The spacesuits are defective. Are all moon buggies, and yes, I said moon buggies on purpose.
I said it earlier too, it's fine.
Because,
I've gone back and forth.
I guess it's like a Land Rover or whatever they want to call it, but I don't give a shit because it's a moon buggy. But it being said moon buggy, how can I put this? Are they that easy to like flip over?
Yes.
Like, really? Because that's the thing.
Really
I was like,
because it's 1/3 gravity, and like the tires are like really, really big, so they can grip, but they're really bouncy. Like, yeah.
Okay.
If you watch like the actual stuff of them using it, they bounce like nobody's business. And but see, the thing is also it's really light, so when he goes out there and it's like, I gotta like put it right side up again, you can do that. But yeah, you could tip it over. You don't want to drive it that fast.
Okay, because that was the thing. Is I was like, I just wasn't sure about that. Just seemed a bit weird.
So why after he clearly knows that he had an alien on his face, that then he's trying to lie to the other guy, like, oh, there's nothing here. Like, well, no, there's something here. Clearly there's something here. Like, weird things are happening. Why are you so disbelieving?
Well, that was the thing. Is like, why did the alien try to get under his skin to start with? Because, like, it got in his suit, and then it started, like, biting him and doing all that other kind of shit, and then it was, like, under his skin, and then it was affecting him, and there was, like, you see, like, all the black veiny line things of infection, and, like, what was that about? Like, what was that for? Like
I don't know. They never tell us.
Yeah, like, it's pointless. Like, it's just like, oh, we're going to show you something that's supposed to be horrifying, but it's not horrifying because there's nothing important about it. I mean, something's going to be scarier if we know why it's supposed to be scary. Like, okay, yeah, just because it's an alien, I'm like, okay, well, it's like 2015. There's been plenty of alien movies. Like, this isn't going to cut it anymore.
Well, see, the thing is that it's such a waste of a thing anyway, because you don't even need that. You don't need aliens that get under your skin and try to kill you off to be like, just being on the moon, just being stuck on the moon. With,
finding the Russian creepiness. Guy, like,
yeah, just
dead
that
in the like that.
That's
that
enough.
Actually did, yeah, like that was good enough to kind of get me going. Whoa, okay, well that's what the hell is like a Russian guy doing with like a hole in his face mask? Like, that was good. Like, I didn't need all of like the body trauma shit.
Yeah, but I guess they just think it's not enough. So,
did they have any pencils there? Because I was kind of, when I tried pausing it to see if I could find any, as I was looking for like pencils within the Russian pod.
Oh, well, that story is not true, right?
It doesn't matter. I'm still going to try to find one. Because even it doesn't matter if it's true or not. There's someone who does believe it.
Did I talk about this already?
I think you did.
I tell? Like, I'm pretty sure I did. I can't remember what episode it was, but the way that it's always phrased is people say that the using NASA as an example of overthinking stuff, that they spend however much supposed money. It's like the cost of, it's like the Arrested Development suit, like the cost changes depending on when it's being said. And that developing a pin that would write in zero gravity, and the Russians solved the problem by just using a pencil. Which sounds like, oh, well, yeah, of course, you would just use that because, it doesn't need gravity. But you don't want to use a pencil because then you have graphite in the air. Yeah. Because you get little, like, when it writes, it doesn't all stay attached to the paper, and you don't want that floating around, getting in the equipment and breathing. I mean, it's a completely closed system environment. So if they did have pencils, which they might have, I don't actually know if the Russians really did use pencils. They landed on land and they didn't wear their helmets either on launch or re-entry, so they did some dumb stuff. So maybe they used, it's like, we don't care about a little graphite dust. We're not even wearing our helmets. So,
Yeah, and that does sound very Russian.
So then I don't have anything until everything sort of completely went wrong, and the other dude is had gone really crazy, and they're like pleading on the radio, like, you have to come get me. And it's like, how are they going to do that? Like, they can't just come and like they can't suddenly have another we're just launching some equipment mission as a rush job to the like. There's no way that you that they can't come to get you. Don't you go to the moon? That's it. You don't. Nobody's coming to get you. You have to get back, or you don't come back.
Well, okay. So my problem is they get off the moon, and they get off the moon in the Russian pod.
Yeah,
and I'm still trying to fathom that.
Well, but before that, the guy apparently he's not dead.
It's like they operate the same way
on the door with the hammer. And he's like 4 seconds from hitting the launch button. There's no reason for him to stand there and scream like, "No, stop! You're gonna please stop!" And it's like, just push the launch button.
Yep, that'll
make him stop. Oh yeah, like, stop just sitting here screaming, letting him try to beat the door in with a hammer. Just launch the thing. But yeah, I mean, I assume it's probably relatively similar, but it's not like there's not a pressed go button even in the limb. Like, there's still some amount of procedure, and he makes a big deal out of that he doesn't read Russian. So yeah, I don't really believe it either. But it's only so that they can finish off the whole thing and just get him blown up. But
well, the thing is, it's because it's in a Russian ship. How was he supposed to dock in with the other one?
Oh, well, I had that question too, and then they did actually answer that, because the guy that's in the command module says it won't, when he's about to launch, he says it won't dock. You'll have to just get close and then EVA and out and then come over.
Okay, when you say EVA, are you talking about the thing that
be in a spacesuit and just like
okay, like what they did in 2001?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'm surprised they didn't just say, "Hey, like, you remember that thing that happened in 2001? Like, that's what we're gonna have to do."
Yeah.
Nobody mentioned Facebook though.
Yeah. Fucking Facebook. Okay, something else that kind of gets me. Okay, Liberty is talking with Houston, and they're like, okay, well, if you do this, we're not going to give you any help getting back, because he's infected, and we don't want that here. Okay, one, it's the government, and they're lying to you, saying that they don't want it. Of course they want it, it's the fucking government. And two, if you have him on board, and they're worried about, contamination and infection and quarantine bullshit, all you got to do is, you're in space. You're going to circle around the Earth for a little bit whenever you get close enough, and then you just got to crash into, like, DC. Be like, hey, Houston. I mean,
he's going to die.
I mean, if we're infected, I'll totally crash this motherfucker into DC. I don't give a shit. So, help us out, bro.
Yeah. Well, really, he kind of couldn't. Because you need the tracking from the ground to be able to get the angle right in order to re-enter, because it's a really, really narrow angle. But the thing about that is it's stupid anyway, because every time they brought a crew back from the moon, they put them in quarantine anyway. That's like the picture of like the Airstream trailer with the big NASA logo on the door on the end. Like, that's what that is. They took them off the capsule. The only people that actually made direct contact with them were the Navy helicopter rescue guys that pull them out of the capsule and take them back to the ship, and then they go right into quarantine and stay. And so they're for like a period of time. And so there's for the first few ones, they actually, I guess for all the ones they actually launched, they did it on both ends. They put them in isolation for a couple of days before to try to make sure they didn't end up sick with anything when they left. But so there's no reason why they couldn't bring him back infected. When you said they would want that. They're the government. Yeah, bring him back. so we can test that. Like, we don't want to just waste that out there in space. Like, we'll get you back here, and then we'll lock you away forever, but we won't tell you that part.
Yeah, like, we're not going to tell you about it. Like, shit. Like, oh, yeah. Like, we could totally use that around here.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that what the point was supposed to be anyway? That's still the thing is, I don't know what the point of the mission was, because there's 3 or 4 different things that it seems as if it could have been, and we never get a real answer.
Yep.
And none of them are good enough.
No. Not good enough.
So how do we feel about stars?
2 stars.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to give it 2 because... Now, I say this because if no one has any clue about anything NASA-wise...
It's still not good.
Of course it's not good. I myself would never watch it again. But, like, I've seen way, way worse. And this is a little bit better than way, way worse. Like, I have, like, okay, like after watching this and it was bad, and Mr. Jones and it was bad, I watched Zombeaver. Like, I'd give Zombeaver 4 stars just for being entertaining as fuck. And it was not as well made as this movie, but this movie was still bad, and I would never want to watch it again. But if someone's like, hey, I like space stuff, I would tell them to watch it just to troll them. So it gets 2 stars for the fact I would even mention it to somebody.
Yeah. It's real bad.
It is bad.
It's real bad. It's real bad. Like, there's nothing... That's not good enough. Just that you control people with it is not a redeeming feature of a movie. It's terrible. It's really terrible. And there's nothing to... I mean, it really is... Even as short as it is, a horrible experience of unbearable length. Like, it just drags on and on forever. Like, is this still happening? Like, why are we sitting around arguing about that there's nothing here when clearly there is? And it's all, like, found footagey and just, like, there's no way for it to happen even by its own internal justification. And it's just terrible. It's 1 star. It has been. It's terrible.
There was 2 really creepy parts to it, though.
Okay, there were those, but...
Wait. We both know the first part was finding the dead Russian with the hole in his mask. But do you know the second one?
I think I probably did at the time, because I remember there being a second creepy thing, but now I can't think what it was.
It's when the infected guy was holding the camera over the other dude while he was sleeping and doing the heavy breathing. Oh. That was creepy.
I guess.
No, man, dude.
I don't think that's the one I was thinking of then.
No, like, everything else was fine. But it's just like, you have this guy and he's infected, and you just pulled an alien rock creature out of his flesh. And then the guy goes ape shit and tries smashing it, causing debris and contamination and shit inside. He's throwing a fit. You can't do anything with him because he's, like, going crazy. So you decide that you're going to sleep, and then he wakes up and then holds a video camera and just watches you. Like, no. No, I'm putting my suit on. I'm going back outside. I'll take my chances with the rock aliens, because fuck that. That's creepy.
I guess.
And at least I brought a working flashlight. Fucking government.
Well, that's all we have to say about Apollo 18.
And it wasn't anything nice.
No. Well, you said, but there were some creepy parts.
Creepy parts do not equal niceness.
No. We'll see you next time.
Later.